And
Yes,
then you do
ma'am.
roll call?
Yes, ma'am. And because we do have Mr. Kyle Ramy on the line to do a presentation from Bosca for water conservation.
Okay. All right, well,
And I'll do a roll call. So I know we don't have to be as formal as we do on city council. So I see the people here. I'm just going to mark you guys all present. All right. I'll just let you know that we also have our sustainability coordinator, Mr. Douglas Kim here. City Manager Rodriguez is doing a housing element meeting with the other council members at this time, so he won't be joining us. And I don't think that the mayor will be joining us either.
did you guys get feedback from the state?
No, they're just doing some planning stuff, talking about other items.
Hey, you left me out. Okay, just joking. Never mind.
Okay, so the first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Do I have a motion?
I motion that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I second.
Perfect.
And I'll just ask if we, are we all ayes on that?
Aye.
I
Okay, that's approved. The next item, if you'll allow, I'll just introduce it briefly. So committee member Frederick prepared an email that he shared with me, and I shared it with City Manager Rodriguez. Essentially kind of asking about the mission, the role, the authority of the Environmental Programs Committee. And included with that very brief staff report that I prepared, hopefully you guys were all able to see that. I know we're using a different agenda management tool. I hope it's easy. You'll get familiar with it, I promise. I attached the governing resolution that is approved by the city council for all town committees and commissions. And just in brief, our committees and commissions are designed to be advisory groups to the city council. In terms of the authority or the role they have, it's often to make recommendations to the city council on anything from a program to an initiative or even budgetary items. But again, it comes back to the council for a decision or adoption of a resolution or an ordinance or something like that. And the example that I'll use that this group would be familiar with is what this committee has done, and Chair Miles is familiar what this committee did with the leaf blower work, or what this committee did with reach code work. It was a collective joint effort with a subcommittee of the city council. They came together, they made real recommendations, put together actual pen to paper, and those things actually then came to city council for the consideration of adoption. Now, those two items didn't get adopted, but despite the work that, that's despite the work that the committee did. And that's a kind of a brief and general overview of how most of our committees work. So I just wanted to lead that introduction and then give Mr. Frederick an opportunity to kind of speak to where he was going with his
We're
thoughts.
gonna run out of time, so let me just say a few words, but Dan sent me a note saying he's on, ready to go, so you might just check in with him. He's after this next guy, right?
Kyle is after this one, and then Dan's a little later in the meeting.
So you might want to give Dan a message about what time he would be on.
Yeah, if you guys want to rearrange the agenda.
No, just, he should just know. I'm just saying.
It's hard for me to say. I guess it depends on how much you guys want to talk about this and then what those oral reports will look like.
I mean, 1:30 at the earliest though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you tell him 1:30?
You said he's
Can you do that, or should I
online.
want me to do it?
I'm happy to do it. I don't see a message from him, so.
I'm on, and 1:30 is fine.
Okay, thank you.
So would you want me to just make a few words about my comments on the chart?
Yeah, Phil, you have the
Have you sent
floor.
it out to everybody?
I didn't share that document with everyone, and I'll tell you why. If I share it with the whole committee, then I have to make it public. And I think it's probably better that we have a conversation about it before we make
Before you
that.
share, okay, so the rules are, if we share with everybody, it's public information. If I share it with you, it's not.
Right, you can send me something and I mean, somebody could submit a public records request and ask for it.
And now
But
now
I
you're
don't-
forced- now
I
you're
don't
forced-
have to post it online and.
Yeah. Now you're forcing me to find it.
Well, I did include your proposed language for a mission statement in the staff report that everyone should have access to if you just click on the agenda. And if you'd like, I can pull that staff report up so that I can share that on the screen if you guys.
That'd be
would like.
great. Yeah, I can't see it on my screen, but
Okay.
I'll have to turn
Give me
around.
one moment, please.
Hey, Anthony, while you're pulling up this document, can I ask just like a logistical question? I know later in this presentation, we're gonna be talking about like water conservations, and if we wanted to do like a mailer or something to the town, would we propose that to the council for them to approve the budget, or how would that work?
Yes.
If we don't,
Yeah, so a mailer, and when you say, I would suggest we try to incorporate whatever information we want in
an
a
Athertonian.
message that we're already doing. So for example, working on the winter 2022 Athertonian, as you're familiar with what we've done with that. If we want to, if you guys have some mailer information, so that we want to get out, we can include it in that. Now, I've already reached out to Kyle, who's on the line today, and he's given me 2 different flyers about water conservation that we're going to include in the Athertonian for the winter 2022. But if there's something above and beyond that, I would think let's try to, you guys can absolutely submit me content information. I'm always open to that. And we can just include that in something that's already done.
Okay,
And I would suggest, just as a recommendation, that we limit the number of mailers. I mean, that contributes to waste. So the more we can do via electronic communication, the better. I understand that some members might not have access to email, but we can also consider communicating via, groups, just as this event this evening. But I think we should push to eliminate any sort of waste, including flyers and mailers.
So, yeah, and I totally concur. So I have it up on my screen here. Do you folks joining online want to pull it up, or do you want me to just share my screen for you to see it all?
why don't you do a share screen?
Okay. Let's do that. Okay, so here is the brief staff report. And I'm just going to scroll down to the part here. So with the pleasure of the chair, I'll just read what committee member Frederick proposed as a mission statement. And just before I do that, keep in mind, any amendment to the governing resolution that's approved by the city council would have to obviously go to the city council to be heard and approved. So if this group says, well, we'd like to amend that governing resolution and propose some amendments and add this additional language in, you're absolutely welcome to do that, but the council will need to.
It's pretty vanilla, right? It just says recommend things to the council.
Well, yeah, that's right.
It doesn't really talk about what you're going to do. It just says you're an advisor, recommend the council, do your best.
That's true. I would caution making very specific charges for a committee based on the here and now that another committee would be locked and tied to for 2 to 3. Yeah.
If that's true, what I said in the rating, we should change it. I agree.
So I'm happy to read this if you guys can't see it. Well, let me just do that. So the purpose of the Environmental Programs Committee is to educate, advocate, and support the environmental, economic, and social sustainability of the community through partnerships with our residents, businesses, and government to meet the needs of the present without compromising the resources of future generations. Any proposed legislative actions relating to sustainability are presented to the committee for review and/or recommendation to council and staff. And now that I've read that, I don't think what's listed here is out of the question, is off the table. And I think that this committee we could do this without making any revisions or edits. The part that I think is a little tricky would be the businesses part, because we really don't have many in town other than the schools and
Well, in business,
the circus
in this
club.
case, business might be the wrong word.
Hey, Ken, can you move closer to your microphone? I'm having a hard time hearing.
Yeah,
you.
they can't hear you.
Sorry, I can't
Yeah.
see the screen and use, I don't know, anyway. So when I say businesses, and this, by the way, I didn't create this. I went to the web and found towns who had environmental committees, and they had missions. So this is a mission statement from a town in Rhode Island. And when I talk about businesses, I know we don't have businesses in the town, but we have vendors that come in and work for the residents. And we should be including them in the discussions because they spend a lot of time in the town. They're part of the town by definition. Brightview, all our landscaping guys, they're all part of the environmental sort of group here in the city. We gotta get them involved. We should know what they're doing. They should know what we're doing, and they should advise us. We should advise them. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I would agree with that, just in thinking about how we consider our entire supply chain. But these vendors would be considered part of that. And if we can make recommendations based on, you know, whatever best practices we've identified for the town to these vendors and try to, you know, educate them on those best practices, it would just extend our reach. So yeah, I agree. I don't know if you want to say something specific about the schools and the vendors as opposed to use the word businesses, but I do think we need to have some language that incorporates everyone that does any operations or work within the town.
And Amy, that's a great point, because I've forgotten until recently, not only is it the vendors who come and do the work for our residents. And one of the reasons why I'd like to get those guys involved is often there's an economic impact of what you want to do. And without talking to them, you'll never know what it is. And so before we do things, we should understand any economic input. It may be right to do, it might be a savings, who knows what it is. We can't figure that out on our own. We don't know that. The people that are in the business know that. And the second thing I forgot about is, you know, massive green parts of this town are really Menlo Atherton High School, Menlo College, and I assume the Circus Club, correct?
The Menlo School, I think, is also.
I'm sorry.
We have
Menlo
8
School, yeah,
schools.
And the other private school up there.
Sacred Heart.
Sacred Heart. And they've got large grass, trims, trees, everything else. We should get them involved as well. And in fact, a question I asked myself is, I don't know the answer to this, maybe Anthony does. If the town were to pass an ordinance on something like leaf blowers, does that apply to them?
Yes, it does.
Does that mean the Circus Club can't use a leaf blower that's gas?
Depending on how the language is
Yeah, I mean,
worded,
just-
but
there's-
yes.
That's all. I didn't know that. Sorry.
So there is nothing in place right now. So nobody,
Well, no, but I'm saying, so I like, your point is correct, that businesses should be changed to something more encompassing about stakeholders, service providers, something like that, that covers everybody.
Stakeholders, yeah, stakeholders.
I think Diana has a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we did and will encounter this on the leaf blower, because when I was on the subcommittee that was discussing that, and we tried to find local organizations that were like gardening organizations, which hopefully would be, it's hard to reach out to our vendors is where I'm trying to go to. So we didn't know how to do that. So if you guys have any advice on how to do that, once we get our ordinance in place, the question is when, but when we do, we want to plug our community into the rebates. There's going to be a rebate program that's statewide and maybe countywide, and we're researching those. And then we're going to reach out to all of both the residents and hopefully the vendors and say, you can turn in your gas blower for a leaf blower at such and such place. But how to reach
I
them, I
think those
don't know.
questions will be answered in the presentation. Stand by.
Okay.
Okay.
Those questions you asked, I think, will be answered at least partially in the presentation you're going to get in about half an hour.
Great.
Hey, Anthony, do we have a mission statement for the
No.
Environmental Programs Committee?
none that I'm aware of. And so
Do
that was
other
where I was-
committees have mission statements?
None that I'm aware of. So that's where I was going next. I need to talk to George and maybe even our city attorney about the authority of the EPC saying, hey, this is our mission statement that we want to operate and work within, even without making suggestions to the city council to revise that governing resolution, because that may be a possibility. But before I say, yeah, I think you can do it, let me just do a little research on that.
I'm not saying that the town council shouldn't approve it and change it, but I'm saying, how do you know what you're doing if you don't have a mission? If you don't have a
Yeah, and
mission,
I
what are
would
you doing?
add, just in terms of best practices at the corporate level, having a purpose statement or a mission statement that's tied to your sustainability practices is considered, you know, I guess, best practice, not to be repetitive. And there's even examples I can give of surveys and indexes that look at publicly available information, i.e. your mission statement as it might be on a website or in a public facing document, and then see if that aligns to what you're actually doing. So I think it is considered best practice if it's okay with the legal counsel. I would recommend we have at the minimum this type of high level mission statement.
Yeah, I don't object. I mean, there are other cities, if you take a look at other cities that have environmental programs committees or sustainable committees, they do have mission statements, purpose statements, similar to what you would see in a corporate organization. How they went about approving that That's the part that I'm not sure on. So I know we can do it. I just want to make sure that what we do, meets the needs of the town. And I can bring that information back.
Sounds good.
I
So
like
then
the
we don't
idea
have
of
to
having
wait till a
mission
meeting.
statement for recruiting more EPC members, because we're still short one.
Yep.
on the website under duties, it has 2 bullet points of what the EPC does. Not the same as but that would be where it would be if you were to want to publish it somewhere.
Right. Yep. So I guess the takeaway here is that I'll do a little research, and we don't have to wait till the next meeting. I can get back to the committee on kind of our next steps for this. And hopefully you guys can adopt one at, your next meeting in November.
The town council's gonna look at it first, right?
Yeah, I'm mostly going to talk to them about probably the process and less the wording. George will likely want to look at the actual wording and the language that we use.
Thanks.
Cool. Good idea, guys.
So if there's nothing else, I will prop up the presentation from our Bosca rep on the phone.
Hey there.
Oh,
Good afternoon,
Hello,
committee
Kyle.
members. Thanks for having me.
Hi.
Actually, Kyle, if you want to run the slides yourself, you're welcome to share your screen. That's perfectly fine.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. Let me bring it up.
what's that beautiful view behind you?
That would be the Hetch Hetchy Reservoir, which I'll go into a little bit on this presentation.
That's not
Fantastic.
what it looks like currently, though. That's pretty
No.
shocking.
It's a little bit lower, but actually we do have some good news in regards to like how the Bay Area water system is doing. So it's better than the rest of the state.
All
So
right.
it's good news, but it doesn't mean we're out of the woods. Okay. Can you guys see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So my name is Kyle Ramey. I'm the Water Resources Specialist for Bosca. Bay Area Water Supply and Conservation Agency is what that stands for. And I thought it would be good to take a couple of minutes to explain kind of our mission statement, what we do, and kind of how we're responding to the drought. So what is Bosca? We're a special district that was formed in 2003 to represent the interests of the 26 major water suppliers in San Mateo, Santa Clara, and Alameda County. Now you can see on the right-hand side is our entire service area, which basically stops at the SFPUC service area, goes as far south as San Jose and as far east as Alameda County. We serve 1.8 million residents, although we don't supply water, we do serve them in other ways, and over 40,000 businesses and countless community organizations, all of which rely on the SFPUC Hetch Hetchy regional water system. The Bosca 26 member agencies that are served by that system are all listed here, Town of Atherton being one of them within the Cal Water Bear Gulch service area. And the Bosca Board of Directors is comprised of an elected or an appointed representative from each one of these member agencies. Bosca's goal is pretty simple, a reliable supply of high quality water at a fair price. And in everything that we do, whether it's conservation programs, drought reliability models, tier 2 allocation negotiations, all of that is done with this very simple goal in mind. So where does our water come from? This is kind of a snapshot look at the SFPUC regional water system. It starts far east in the Yosemite Valley. The picture behind me is the Hetch Hetchy Reservoir, Lake Eleanor Reservoir and Cherry Lake, which feeds into the Tuolumne River by almost all gravity-fed pipelines, into the new Don Pedro Reservoir, which is where the water bank is, which I'll talk about in additional slides. Down to the San Antonio Reservoir and all the way into the local system, which includes reservoirs like the Crystal Springs Reservoir, which essentially serves the entire Bay Area. So it's just kind of a snapshot look at how the system works. So talk a little bit about water usage in our service area. This is from the most recent Bosca annual survey. It's a report that we produce once a year that wraps up all of the water use data from all of these agencies. So as you can tell, 2/3 of the entire supply is purchased from that SFPUC regional water system. The additional are from other sources, which include, purchases from Valley Water, for example. We have several agencies within Santa Clara County, groundwater wells, a couple of recycled water plants within some of these agencies, service water purchases, and SS supplemental purchases, which are additional purchases from the SFPUC, which is wrapped up within that 2/3. So the total Bosca supply is around 205 million gallons per day, which is pretty consistent with prior years, except during severe drought years. So historically, what does that look like? 24% less water is actually used, despite a 32% increase in population from 75-76. Now we're using the baseline of 86-87 in terms of water use. The orange line is your population increase. The water demand is the dark blue and slash blue lines. The slash blue lines are indicated by drought years. As you can tell, we see a huge dip in those drought years, which means the community responds to our messaging and our conservation programs. And then you do see a slight rebound after that in non-drought years. And this is pretty consistent throughout the history of Bosca. But it does show that our community responds when we ask them to conserve. Here's another look at that, more on the gallons per person per day. So GPCD, for those who don't know, is gallons per capita per day or per person per day. In the peak in 86-87 for gross, which includes commercial customers, industrial, and institutional customers. The blue line, also the dash blue line, is indicated by drought years as well. The peak was at 186.5 GPCD, and now it's down to 107.2. I think I can't really, 107.3. And then the orange line is residential. At the peak, 114, around 115. And then in 2020, 2021, it's all the way down to 65.8, which is really good. And that is cumulative over the entire Bosca service area. So what are the water supply conditions like right now? This is a slide stolen from the SFPUC. They present this on a weekly basis to their commission and then on a monthly basis to the Bosca member agencies. Hetch Hetchy is about 79.2% full. Normal percentage would be around 80. So we're looking really good at Hetch Hetchy. Cherry, Eleanor, still in pretty good condition. And then the water bank, which is a portion of Don Pedro, which is used to supply agencies with direct water in an effort to preserve the storage at Hetch Hetchy to be used in dry years. And overall, total Tuolumne storage is at 65%, which is much better than the rest of the state, which we'll look at here in a minute.
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course.
So how does that work? Because we're part of the Cal Water Bear Gulch.
Mhm.
Do we get all of our water from this supply, or do we also get water from somewhere else?
I believe Bear Gulch does purchase the vast majority of their supply from the SF Regional Water System.
Okay.
I think they do have some surface water purchases, but I can dig down a little bit into the data and provide you that after the presentation.
Yeah, thanks.
Sure. So overall, the area is actually in really good shape, but it doesn't mean to stop conserving because we are anticipating another dry winter. And if that happens, storage at Hetch Hetchy will ultimately go down. So we're hoping to use these supplies for later years. Other California reservoirs, so a little bit bleaker of a picture. We have, Lake Shasta, for example, which is the largest reservoir in California, 33% of historical average. Trinity, San Luis, they're all pretty low, and actually all of them are beneath their historical average. So it's kind of a snapshot of how the rest of the state is doing in comparison to the Bay Area. Here's the drought monitor.
Can I ask a quick question? Maybe
Of
you're
course.
going to get to it later in the presentation, but I am interested to know how much of that water supply goes to agriculture use. I'm sure you guys follow all of that, and businesses, and then how much to residents.
So are you talking about throughout the state or just Bosca service area?
I guess just on this slide throughout the state.
So we don't track agricultural water use at Bosca just simply because it's pretty far outside of our service area. So I wouldn't be able to give you an accurate percentage, say, of some of these reservoirs and what's dedicated to agriculture. I'm sure in the Central Valley, it's quite a big portion. But unfortunately at Bosca, we don't have those statistics.
Okay, no worries. I was just curious.
I get that question quite a bit because it is a glaring, how can I say this? It's on top of mind because it's very clear that California has a large piece of their economy from agriculture. And so when we're asking customers to conserve, one of the first things that they look to is why, I'm already using, 3 CCF a month. I can't really conserve that much more. And here's agriculture growing almonds in the desert that use like a gallon per almond, but unfortunately at Bosca, we don't track that as closely. Water supply conditions update. This is the drought monitor that's released once a week, I believe. It looked slightly worse like July, June, but we're still, big portions of the state are in extreme or even severe drought. Bay Area is doing a little bit better than the rest of the state, but we are anticipating that dry conditions will continue. So another snapshot look at kind of how the state's doing in terms of the drought monitor. So what's Bosca's message during all of this? It's important to use water wisely now, as I mentioned earlier, making sure that water is there for continued dry years, because it's not just one dry year that causes drought, it's multiple in a row. So as part of that, the SFPUC is currently asking for a voluntary reductions from all water customers of at least 15%. This is voluntary, not mandatory yet. However, our agencies are responding pretty well to this. Now the comparison is from fiscal year 1920, which is the year prior to the official drought. Now they're asking for an 11% reduction over their entire service area, but that also includes San Francisco. So it's 15% for the entirety of the Bosca member agencies, which is SFPUC South. So I mentioned earlier, every drop saved today is stored in our reservoirs for use later next year. So we're really pushing that message as well. Summertime, we're transitioning into fall now, but summertime offers some of the best opportunity to easily reduce that water use. We typically see a large spike in the summer due to outdoor landscapes and things like that. So that's really our chance to capture as much savings as we can. And then as we go into the winter, it declines a bit. So savings are a lot harder to capture. So, we're pushing outdoor, reduce as much turf as you can, like non-functional turf. The big fields like outside of like office buildings or medians, things like that. And then take advantage of the multitude of conservation programs and rebate opportunities that are available either at the local, regional, or state level. And I'll talk a little bit about those later in the presentation. Here is the total potable water use of the Bosca member agencies in July. We just received August data and I didn't have time to quite update it yet, but July is looking pretty good. The green line there is the 2015. That was at the height of the last drought where there were mandatory restrictions. So that's kind of the baseline, but that's super low in historical terms. The dark blue line is 2013, which was the original baseline from the last drought, which was from the mandatory reduction targets. And the yellow line is 2022. So we're pretty in line with 2015, which is great news. 20% less than 2013 and 14% less than 2019, which is the new baseline year. So this month, Bosca member agencies certainly met that 15% reduction target. But I'll kind of show you on the next slide here where we're at on the fiscal year basis. So, we track our water use from July to June every year. For the period of July 1st through September 8th, which is the most recent data, San Francisco customers reducing by 13%, which is really good, which is actually exceeding the 11% ask from the SFPC. However, the wholesale customers are at 8.5, which is about half. Now we're hoping to gain some additional savings in the fall, but summertime is typically like the best time to actually capture it. So we're at 8.5. So hoping that we ramp up some conservation programs, ramp up the messaging, and hopefully we can achieve at least around the 15% target by the end of the year. Just for some context, I thought it would be good to include what the agencies achieved during the last drought. The light blue line there is the overall reduction target over the entire Bosque service area. But that means different things for different agencies. So we're asking for a 15% total reduction. However, some conservation standards, which are identified by the dark blue bars, meant different things for different agencies. So for example, Daly City has very historically low water use, so their conservation standard was less than 10%. However, a place like Hillsborough has very high water use, so their conservation standard was above 35%, same with Cal Water Bear Gulch. Now, as you can tell, almost every agency met that target, and even then some. And a 26.5% cumulative savings is, I think, admirable that we were asked to conserve by 15, and we shattered that, which I think is, I think is a big win. So Bosque is providing overall regional drought coordination. The graphic on the right is part of the SFPUC drought campaign, which I sent over to Anthony yesterday to use in some of your marketing material, your flyers that I heard you guys talking about earlier. Those can certainly be used, and we can provide them in several different formats for social media, email marketing. We can even do billboards for, if we can work with the SFPUC on that. So we're coordinating this drought messaging and response efforts throughout the region, expanding public outreach and conservation program support. Again, coordinating with the SFPUC on drought messaging. So we're kind of putting that across the board. We're making regular updates to the Bosque website to ensure that the most up-to-date drought information is available, and then also links to additional conservation programs outside of the ones that Bosque offers. We're also expanding requests or responding to expanded requests for public outreach and providing information on the regional water supply, the regional water system supply conditions, clarification on what exactly means the call to conserve. As I mentioned, there is no mandatory restriction yet, but so we're trying to, reinforce conservation, but not necessarily saying, hey, this is a mandated reduction target. So trying to provide clarification on that. Bosque and member agencies' response to the drought, and then additional clarification on our conservation programs. We've been developing a few new ones, which I'll get to in a bit here.
I have a question about
Sure.
that, because you're saying that the drought stuff, none of it's mandatory, but I just saw a headline a few days ago about like some East Bay water customers being like named and shamed for their water usage. Is that you guys, or are they in a different water agency?
That would probably be East Bay Mud, I would assume, if they're in the East Bay service territory.
At Berkeley and Oakland and
Yeah, and I don't know if that's like the right way to go about it, but
Yeah.
some agencies are trying to reach out to their biggest water customers and say, hey, we really need you to reduce at this time. But they are not mandatory. So maybe shaming them is a way for that to get them to voluntarily reduce without like
The
providing any
drastic measure.
surcharges.
yeah, I would guess, given the lot sizes in Atherton, some of the higher water usage at individual properties might be
Right.
within our town limits. So
Mm-hmm.
that caught my attention. Something that might happen.
Yeah. And, I think friendly reminders, letters to those customers, even some of the water agencies actually knocking on doors. Purissima Hills Water District, which is a small but very high water using territory, has implemented that approach. They've been actually physically going to the doorsteps and saying, hey, we really need you to conserve here. Conditions are continuing to be drier and drier. I think that approach probably works a little bit better rather than, printing their water use in the newspaper or something like that. But every agency, I guess, has their way about going about things. But we, at Bosque, we don't directly deal with individual residents. We typically leave that to the member agencies. What we do is provide the appropriate messaging to help the agencies pass along that message to those customers. I
Okay.
think that's probably the best approach.
Okay.
I remember during the last drought, I think Billy Bean was in East Bay, and he got called out in the newspaper
Yeah.
for high water use.
How does it work with the wells in Atherton?
You know, not quite sure. That would probably be the best question for Cal Water, who actually manages them.
Okay.
I'm not totally sure how many wells there are, what the water usage is. But I will, after the presentation, I'll put in chat the best contact at Cal Water. They should be able to answer that question, no problem.
Great, thank you.
So www.bosca.org/drought for the most up-to-date drought and conservation program information. This is kind of what's going on all of our marketing material. It provides updates on the 2021 to 23 drought, and then links to the following, including programs, rebates, water savings tips, both indoors and outdoors, additional drought information. And then we have this cool map on the site that, let's say you're a resident of San Mateo, you can click on the San Mateo actual region, and it'll lead you to the City of San Mateo or Cal Water's website, where you can take advantage of programs in addition to the ones that Bosca offers. So what programs do we offer? So we have, rain barrel rebates. I'm pretty sure Town of Atherton actually just signed up with Bosca for the rain barrel rebate program. They're working with Doug Kim on that. Now we do provide up to $200 per barrel. Now it depends on capacity. So we wanted to extend the 50-gallon, typical rain barrel to large cisterns. So if somebody wanted to put in a 200-gallon rain barrel, we will pay them up to $200 for that. The biggest program that we're really trying to push is the Lawn Beyond program, which is getting rid of turf and replacing with California drought-tolerant natives. Our agencies offer $1 to $4 per square foot with an additional $300 rebate for a rain garden installation, which is kind of like a stormwater, not device, but landscaping technique to capture the runoff. Now, the way our programs work are they're subscription programs. So our agencies can choose to participate, and if they do, they're the ultimate funders of the program. Bosca handles the administrative, the program development side, and then our agencies actually cut the check. The additional one is a smart irrigation controller rebates, up to $75. The resident pays about $100, which is a pretty good deal, and it's a very intuitive controller. We're working with Ratio on that one.
There's no rules. I know Cal Water also has a Rockio rebate program. Can they be used at the same time?
No, we don't allow double dipping in the rebate program, and unfortunately Cal Water does not participate with us on these programs, but they, as you mentioned, they do offer basically the exact same program, and even some additional ones. So for like Atherton residents, we always refer them to Cal Water because they can get the best rebates there.
So for the lawn replacement one, Cal Water also has a lawn to garden program. So for Atherton residents, they should go through Cal Water, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So the only rebate that you guys do for Atherton residents is the rain barrel.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's because it's within County of San Mateo. And that way we can get the funding from CCAG, which is basically the county. And so they're allowed to come on board. But the other ones are funded by Cal Water, so they have to go through Cal Water.
Okay.
Here's some newer programs. I think 2021 is when we developed these. They're starting to take off a little bit more. We have some irrigation hardware rebates, high efficiency sprinkler nozzles, spray bodies, and large rotors. And then we developed a cool residential self-audit tool program. Now, anybody can log into our portal and go through this audit of their house. It's pretty basic. I mean, it shows you how to check your water meter, how to look for leaks, how to change your devices, or measure your flow rate on your shower head, for example. And now participating agencies, I think there's only maybe 4 or 5, actually send a physical kit where they can actually have the devices. Now, this audit can be done with household items, but if somebody wants like the official kit, they can get one for free through this program if they're part of a participating agency.
Is Cal Water a participating agency?
Unfortunately, no, but they do have a very similar program. So they do a conservation kit, which is
Yeah.
pretty simple. Has some like instructions in there on like how to check, how to replace these things. So we modeled some of these programs actually after Cal Water programs because they do have a really good suite of them. And then finally, we have free online and in-person landscape classes. We switched to online during COVID, and actually it created this a whole additional benefit that we didn't even realize, which was more and more people could actually attend. And it also created a library of recordings that people can go back to. So we're still wanting to offer them either in hybrid format, kind of like this meeting, or standalone Zoom meetings, or maybe straight in-person workshops. But we do offer those free, again, funded by the agencies. And if agencies choose to participate, they're completely free to the residents. We also offer garden tours, Bay Area community-based showcases, showcasing private gardens featuring California natives. So if someone's looking for inspiration, they can sign up for those as well.
And San Mateo County offers something similar, right? I've attended some of their compost ones. Is that
Mhm.
coordinated?
Sometimes we
somehow?
partner with
Okay.
City of San Mateo or county. Like we'll do like a rain barrel giveaway workshop or something like that, like how to install a rain barrel. And then at the end, we'll do a raffle and someone will go home with one. So we've done some partnership. This is technically separate from what the county offers, but we're in direct contact with the county all the time. They're our main partners on the rain barrel program. And so we try to collaborate as much as possible with the county.
Okay.
Just do some cross promotional stuff as well. And I think that's it. I think I went maybe a little bit over. There's my contact information. Amy, I'll try to get that contact for Cal Water for you for your question about the wells.
Thank you.
But
Would
if
that be
there's
Dawn?
yeah, Dawn Smithson. Yeah, she would probably be the best person to talk to. So if you guys already know her, that's great. And I can also provide you the best conservation contact too for if you guys have program specific questions. But if anything comes up, if you guys are looking for outreach materials or any general questions from the public, like how to deal with like large water users, you can certainly reach out to me at my email or give me a call.
For the rain barrel program, if someone wanted to install like a really big one, do you guys have vendors that like a database of vendors that could do that? Or
Unfortunately, because we're a government agency, we're not allowed to recommend any
Right.
particular contractor.
Yeah.
But having said that, we're looking into ways to add people to a registry, like if they went through some type of certification saying, hey, we're not like recommending any of these people, but we know that they've gone through, some sort of step. And so you can choose from this list. Because that is kind of a big barrier, especially when it comes to things like the Lawn Be Gone program. Who do I call, to actually get this work done? Or like if we're thinking about doing gray water programs, who do we call to actually do the install? Is it even worth it for the plumber to install it? Like these are questions that we're constantly asking.
Do you guys have a gray water rebate program?
We don't currently, but we are getting tons of requests. I mean, because where we are now, as I've shown you in the previous graph of water use, every level of conservation that you achieve, the next level is that much more difficult. Because once you've replaced your appliances, once you've cut back, your showers and you're doing everything that you can, there's only so much more you can do, once you've taken out your lawn and all that stuff. So the next logical step is reuse. And so the SFPUC is doing a lot of looks into alternative supplies, whether it's going to be desal or recycled water plants or gray water incentives. I think that's kind of the future of California. Maybe less desal, but definitely reuse.
Yeah.
And have you done, I think you showed on maybe the previous slide when I was asking about San Mateo County and the gardening and then I think, the garden tours. Do you know in the past if anyone offered up their home in Atherton to kind of show what they had done and, kind of a show and tell session where you have people come over and see how it works? Do you know if you guys have organized any of those in our town?
I don't know if we have an Atherton,
Okay.
but I'll check on that. I'm not quite sure. I mean, these take place all over the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And typically, people will offer up their landscape and say, hey, I just did a big conversion, and then they'll actually take them out and look at these gardens. But I don't know if any is actually taking place in Atherton, but I can certainly find out.
All right, it would be the same on the, rain barrels and anything that people have done, just because it's nice to be able to see it in person and find out how it works for them.
Certainly. Yeah. Yeah, I'll take a look at that. I'll talk to our program administrator and see if historically if we can point to any specific properties that these took place at. Any other questions?
This is great. Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, this is really helpful.
Yeah, no worries. And I think you guys have the slide deck. So if you need to look back at anything, feel free to. And again, reach out to me if there's any additional questions. And Amy, I'll try to get back to you on the.
Actually, I do
two.
have one more question.
Sure.
We're gonna start talking Earth Day later in this agenda.
Mhm.
And if we go the same route as we did last year, we'll do a vendor fair at our park. Would you
Mhm.
do you guys participate in stuff like that?
Certainly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would we contact you?
Yeah, you can contact me and either myself or our office assistant / water conservation rep. We'll be happy to table or
Cool.
something like that.
Bring a bunch of rain barrels and show them off.
Yeah, definitely. And we bring we bring giveaways too, like shower timers or like faucet aerators, toilet dye tabs, things
Cool.
that people can use like around the house. We just give them away and then provide some information on the drought. So happy to do it.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Thank you, Kyle. Just as
Yeah.
a follow-up, Amy, if you want to, I think your question was just, how do the wells in Atherton work? Yeah, I'm happy to reach out to Dawn and, save you the trouble, Kyle, and then I'll get back to the whole group on it.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
So next up, we've got our next presenter presenting under the committee and staff report comments for the committee subcommittee on and I wasn't sure if we came to a confirmed like retitling, was it electric landscaping tools or sustainable landscaping technology? So I kind of, just used both there, but we've got a guest, again, a recommendation from committee member Frederick on providing different certifications related to sustainable equipment and power tools. And he's prepared to kind of present about what his agency and his organization does. And Mr. Frederick, you're welcome to lead in on that. as
Yeah, let
well.
me say a few words about this. So like as was just said earlier, the challenge is how to get your landscapers, your commercial landscapers to come out, do the work at your house, how to get them involved in our efforts. And so I also had the same problem finding any local groups. So I went to the national group. There's a national group back in Washington that is basically the association that guys belong to if you're in the landscaping business, and one of their members is Brightview, who is our now town landscaper, right? And I said, where would I go to get this help? They sent me to Dan, who is going to be our speaker. I've never met Dan. I've talked to him on the phone a few times, but as I understand it, he'll give you more details. His consulting team basically is the enabler to provide the skills and the direction to the landscapers, whether they're the individual person or the outside company, to basically use the latest technologies to provide sustainable landscaping, but with a bent on making them economical. With the idea being that if you can save money and do good, you'll do it faster than if all you can do is do good. And particularly if you've got a commercial guy out there who's being squeezed on profits. If he can do a better environmental job and also save money, he's in immediately. If all he does is spend more money to do a better job, that's a hard sell. And so I'm looking for the easy sell. I think Dan will talk about that. One other comment before he goes there. As you were talking, Amy, I think you're talking about having a demo site for a resident that had the right sustainable processes. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right. That was my suggestion. Yep.
So here's an idea. We have a company called Brightview. They do the town. There's a lot of places there. There got to be places in the town you could set aside as a demo site, and let the town residents come to the town and see the latest technology, not to go to somebody else's house. It may be possible we could find locations around the Holbrook Palmer Park or elsewhere where we could do something both in water and in sustainable landscaping as a demo site that is there all the time, that is basically the way to sell the residents on something, again, that makes sense economically and environmentally. So I think at some point in time, we want to draw a bright view into these discussions as well. Anyway, that was a side comment. Let you go back to Dan.
Dan, you have the floor.
Is he still there?
Hello, everyone. I'm Dan Mabe. I'm gonna just pop in on video really quick, and then I'm gonna shut it off because I am on the road. I am actually heading back down to Southern California from San Jose, where we spent the day yesterday at the Cambrian School District, certifying their entire school district and electrifying all of their operations. So I'm gonna pop back off of video.
All their gardening operations?
And that is correct.
Okay,
All of their
cool.
grounds maintenance, landscape maintenance. All right, so I'm going to share, thank you. I'm going to share the screen here. Okay, can we all see that? Can
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, great. Let me enable the sound. Okay, and then I will start from the beginning. Okay, that's me in a suit. I'm Dan Mabe, founder and president of the American Green Zone Alliance. Before I can let everybody know, I come from this industry. Agile was started through the lens and experience of people from the gas industry. So we are a leader in low impact grounds maintenance strategies. Our mission is to prudently transition the grounds maintenance industry to quieter, more sustainable practices. Applications include commercial institutional crews and private crews who service municipalities, schools, and residential properties. We have been formally established since 2013. How do we do this? Well, we created a few programs here that really help streamline and make this a very equitable and symmetrical transition, if you will, for all involved. One is our AGSA Green Zone certification. That's property transition. All AGSA Green Zone certifications are done through and with our nonprofit partner, Quiet Communities. Number two, AGSA Service Pro certification. This is workforce engagement. There is a very strong behavior modification component. This is peer-to-peer engagement. This is not telling them what to do, it's showing them how to do it. And then other things we do is AFTC, we independently field test and brutalize tool platforms, battery tool platforms, and then just give people that raw data, if you will. Okay, so coming from the gas industry myself, I know firsthand what it's all about. Here's our top 10 impacts. Noise is at the top and in the center because make no mistake about it, it's the noise. A lot of people are now gravitating to worker health. We were screaming worker health a decade ago. We also know lower left, maintaining a small gas engine cradle to grave is going to create toxic and solid waste. We know about the emissions because California is very air quality challenged. Gas tools are going to operate more expensively over time, but electric can help with that only if the tools are taken care of. And I want to stress that the crews are properly trained to get the electric tools to their ROI, their return on investment. Noise, this is us right now, inside the house, outside the house. Most of us are situated, even if you live in an area like Atherton, where there are larger lots than typically where I have in Woodland Hills, you still hear that noise. And that's what that noise profile looks like. If it were electric, that's what it would look like. Why is that? Because noise, hello? Okay, because gas tools operate at low frequencies. Low frequencies travel long distances and penetrate barriers. electric equipment lacks that low frequency component. You're not going to hear it as loud as you would the gas, and it doesn't penetrate barriers nearly as much. Here's an example. We all know about this. Okay, here's our gas contenders right here. Woo! All right, we got power trim. Looks like we have, smoke coming out of the back of the blower there. Okay, anybody annoyed? Every time I watch the video over 1,000 times, it is really tough. Now this is a 74-inch industrial mower. It operates at our largest certified green zone to date. It's an entire school district, about 135 acres of serviceable green space. As this mower distances from you, that noise profile drops off significantly. And that is the same across the board with all electric tools. However, that said, there are some electric blower models on the market that have various twangs, harmonics, and high pitch screaminess to them that could be equally as annoying as gas. So you even have to discern between which electric models you choose if you want to address noise properly. Demand for change, we all know what's happening. This is a well-organized, well-oiled machine now that's sweeping across the country. Some of them take the pitchforks and torches approach. AGSA prefers carrots and not sticks. We are suggesting that we don't need regulations, bans, or ordinances if we're able to educate the industry properly and afford them the same type of resources that have been afforded to the EV and solar industries. So we created a certification standard that is very reasonable for all involved. Some of the most prestigious universities in the United States have brought in our standard. Municipalities, even Prologis, a global logistics company. And basically they're defaulting to our green zone standard and writing it into their ordinances. I know that Ken had mentioned Brightview. Brightview basically is adhering to our standard, and that is the standard that has been brought in by municipalities. But do we do it in a way where, hey, this is it and that's it? It is brought in and the standard is adopted, but there is support from AGSA if they need it to help them with this transition. Here's an example: City of South Pasadena, the first entire green zone city. We started with one park, 10 acres, 5 acres of turf. We are not emotional. We are not political. We are data driven. The data showed that this works for the City of South Pasadena. It didn't raise the prices and lowered the noise, lowered the pollution. So what they did is they said, you know what, the data was so favorable, excuse me, from Garfield Park, that we're going to do the entire city. It was a big deal, Mayor, excuse me. The mayor, city council was out there. Members of Congress and one state senator was present. Just to know, just to let people know they're not messing around, they wrote this into their new RFP. Any contractor who does business with the city has to be AGSA trained or equivalent, but they do have to adhere to the standard, which is reasonable. How do we measure the success? We created a software. It measures all the criteria: pollution, particulate matter, even CO2. This is a snapshot of what we call ELF, environmental landscape footprint. It's not taking large governmental agency inventories and taking a stab at it. This is granular. We inventory gas operations on a granular level, and then we give the actual impact remediation benefits. There's the old technology, there's the new technology. The old compared to the new is more inefficient, requires more maintenance, it's more expensive over time. Very simple. It's a battery management system and a controller, and that tells the motor what to do. It is more efficient compared to gas. It's more simple. It can be more profitable. The caveat is this: it can be a disaster if the tools are not taken care of properly, because on average, they're 40 to 50% more upfront costs. Training is critical. On the left, you see some of our classrooms we've done with LA Unified School District. Over 250 people have been certified. They've taken the online course. We've done the field sessions, the classroom sessions. LA Unified is huge, folks, and they are going to be an AGSA certified district. And I can't believe it myself to this day. We didn't think it could be possible with how huge their operation is, but it's going to happen. Here's what a typical work truck looks like with an all-electric operation. There's no evaporative emissions, there's no fumes, there's no gas, there's no oil, there's no solvents. Cadre, they outbid Brightview, Mariposa, Gothic, Landcare for the very lucrative business park in Santa Monica. We were glad that they did their certification. They invested in a fleet of tools. They are profitable. These tools are now 4 years old, and they still have this very lucrative account. We're very happy that a smaller company was able to use this angle to outbid and secure contract work from the bigger national companies who like to go in and monopolize the industry. Why do you need training? This is one reason. Be careful what you do when you enact something that makes people use this without the proper training and resource. We run into this all the time. You see a homeowner rated extension cord plugged into a power strip. That's a huge no-no. $10,000 worth of tools, not even to 2 years, and they're not going to be able to take advantage of any warranty on it because this is just pure gross neglect. There's fires. Make no mistake about it. Lithium batteries are and can be dangerous if you choose a brand that just has cheap circuitry. Here's an example. We put the thing upside down. We're not impugning any brands, but this happens. Circuitry ate a hole right through the casing, and we're very lucky there was no thermal runaway, but there has been incidents. This is why you need proper training. 50% more expensive. We really stress the need for extra security to protect your investment. Batteries now, the word is out. They're stealing them from each other. There's been a lot of thefts even at the municipal level. Very important. These folks are responsible for tremendous wealth retention and growth in the residential and commercial property sectors. We can't demonize this industry. We've been doing this the last 4 decades with this technology. Their business models are contingent on the power of gas tools. The bigger companies, they do more enhancement work. They make money from other sources, if you will. Doesn't hurt them as much. But I'm telling you, for the companies who are run and gun and rely on power to make a living, we really have to be mindful how we do this. On average, the best electric leaf blower commercial out there is going to have 25% less power than the typical gas ones. So there's that little, you have to adjust to it, and you have to take on a more ecological approach, if you will. And I'm just giving you guys a very overview of we have an entire program where we teach them how to be more ecological, and that we even train the property owners, how to not expect this hyper manicured look. Boots on the ground, infantry approach. We measure constantly the technology as it's evolving, what it can do compared to the gas. How many batteries? Well, that's going to depend. Take a look at those two backpack batteries in the middle. Those are 12 to 1600 watt-hour batteries. Operators may need 3 to 5 of those to get through their day with the blowers. I always stress property owner aesthetic expectation can lower the cost of batteries. Here's a video of one of the top electric leaf blowers on hardscape.
This gentleman loved this blower. He was using gas and then another company's electric leaf blower, which they were not happy with. But they're trying this Husqvarna backpack blower, and I just haven't seen such a big smile on someone's face in a long time.
This is typical. Something comes down, they have to switch, they don't know what they're doing. I can't believe the electric leaf blowers this crew was using for a year. It was just painful and excruciating when they could have had this state-of-the-art technology and the proper training a long time ago. It has made all the difference. They're much more efficient and they are profitable. That is because they were able to increase their workload production capability by sampling the best tools on the market and then choosing what was good for them. Now, this is futile. This is different now. This is something where you're in the fall. And if you're a homeowner or a business and you want all these leaves taken off of the turf, let me show you this. That's impressive. It's powerful, but a gas one would dominate that much better. And we're just suggesting, hey, you know what? Get some of the volume up and mulch the leaves or leave the leaves, and don't do the hyper manicured cleanup through the fall, if you will. But keep in mind, with the blower, more than any other tool going from gas to electric, it's going to require the most energy, the most battery energy, because it pulls so much amperage. These operators are going to need 2 to 3 of these backpack batteries. We go out there and we time it. Okay. Everyone says, oh, just use a rake. All right. Well, yeah, we'll time that out for everybody. We do. And you can't make an effective living with that people are willing to pay these crews by just using a rake. So when I hear that, I just shake my head. But we're out there doing it. So we understand exactly what the business model is if you're not allowed to use any blowers, just electric blowers or a combination. Now, please really pay attention to this slide. $1,500 to $1,700 each. On the left, $1,400 in the middle. On the right is a blower that has an onboard battery, but that onboard battery with this blower is going to last 22 minutes. You would need about 12 of those. Here's the economics, and this is what you really need to pay attention to. If you wanted to replace one gas leaf blower, it could cost you up to $8,000. Now that's going to be in the Midwest, the Northeast, in places where they have very heavy fall-like conditions. But on average, it's going to cost $4,500 to replace one gas leaf blower. And that's the work production rate capability, because when you're replacing gas with electric, it's with a system, and the system is the blower, the batteries, and the chargers. Okay, you need all three of them to make it work. This is why we have to be very mindful, very equitable and symmetrical when we're developing a program to help this transition along. Okay, I'm going to stop there, and then I'm just going to make a quick statement. We know of the state program coming down the line. Senator Portantino, who actually has been to 2 AGZA Green Zone certification ceremonies in the past, when this thing came over to his desk and it was going through the Senate, it passed and they approved $30 million to offset the cost of commercial battery equipment for small operators. For the cities themselves and the larger companies, the local air districts are doing some things through their Carl Moyer program. So there are some things coming down the pike. I have a rapport with Ken. If I learn of anything that falls under your umbrella for your air district, I definitely will send it over to him and say, hey, heads up, there's a program coming your way. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. That was extremely comprehensive.
A very good presentation. Thank you. I do have a question about battery charging. So in your experience, particularly for homeowners, I'm not talking about schools, where are these batteries being charged?
Back porch and in the garage, I would think,
So-
and there have
so-
been, yeah.
They're not being charged at the home of the landscapers then. They're being charged at the home of the homeowners.
Amy, I thought you meant homeowners who have went and purchased.
Oh, no, sorry, Dan.
Yeah.
I meant
is the
homeowners
landscape-
who have landscapers, small scale landscapers doing the work. I just wondered, you know, is the idea to have the batteries remain at the home of the homeowner? Or are these landscapers taking these batteries back and forth and charging them at their own homes?
It's a great question, and I'm gonna say both. Usually these business owners have to take them home and charge them, you know, if they live in an apartment or a small house with antiquated electrics. We do our best to reach them. We are doing programs in some communities that have the resources, and they are buying tools for their operators under our guidance and suggestions. And sometimes when we can, we go and do training seminars with groups, homeowners groups of gardeners. They will store and charge those dedicated suites of equipment on their properties and allow their gardeners access to it.
Understood. That makes more sense. The word equitable really hit me when you mentioned that. And I just wanted to find out how other communities have taken under consideration where the burden is falling for some of these upgrades in the short term.
Yeah, no, excellent question. Thank you for that. And there, again, look, if we never see one another again, that's okay. But I really wanted to you know, be a person of my word with Ken, come on and present what we do. And we're very busy, but we really do want to impart as much valuable information in every interaction. So great question.
Can
Do
I
you
ask
have
a
a-
couple of questions? Is your organization a nonprofit?
No, it's not. It's a consultancy. It's an S corporation. We do services that are contracted, but our certifications are done through and with our nonprofit partner, QCI.
Okay, have you encountered one of the things, and this presentation was excellent, by the way, and I wish the other council members got to see it. But one of the things we're considering in our city is having a ban on spare the air days. So after big fires, there is a layer of toxic ash that blankets the earth and people blow it around. Have you encountered any other cities that have done anything like that?
Yeah, we help cities develop prudent ordinances all over the United States. We're working we're on contract, I think, actively with 20 different municipalities right now. It's very surgical. You really have to understand what the needs are of that exact area, region. Definitely the best ones, if one has to be passed, is going to be ones that afford some gas concessions in the fall, and then for spring cleanup, and then in the summertime and the rest of spring where you really don't need a gas, and that's what we shoot for. And everybody seems to be happy, but we do have those unique challenges with fires. AGSA puts out social media posts after fires asking people not to use blowers at all, not even electric ones, because it causes the same issue with the ash, which is can be very toxic. But you do want to consider that even if you had something on the books, all in all, ordinances are very hard to police and to make sure people are doing what is on the books. It's very, very, very difficult to do that, and you can run into some very contentious situations. And then there's ones where homeowners are actually fined, and small business, some just small business, some just homeowners. There's a lot of different ways you can split that hair.
Excellent. Thank you. I love your presentation. It was awesome.
Thank you, Diana.
So Dan, I got a question for you. If our goal was to get the homeowners themselves, or probably 90% of them, 90 more, or 100% almost, have an outside person doing the job, to adopt the most environmentally appropriate tool for the application they have, because some guys have a third of an acre in Atherton, some have 8 to 10, and sometimes the requirement for the equipment will be different. What's my view on this is we educate people and show them the way to do a good job environmentally and save money. They're going to adopt it. Am I being naive? Is that what happens when you do these things, or do you have to do something different?
Well, we have different types of engagements and services. Usually we start with an overall workshop where institutions, schools, homeowners, and private industry is invited. And we give the reasons why. We are honest about the workload production capability. And then we give examples of very successful transitions that would be similar to that community. And then if there's any resources to be had, then we present those. But I would say we're batting 1,000 every time we've been able to conduct a workshop. We're either brought back in to start a green zone project and really roll up the sleeves, or it has led to inspired changes. So I just think people really do need the information. They need equipment brought to their doorstep, especially the commercial folks. You don't want to just have some rep come out and say they're the Tesla of the electric lawn and garden equipment industry. And we just seen the disasters. We have the luxury of not selling equipment. We just test it and bring it there separate of that world and let folks try it before they buy it. So it almost always ends up with a positive outcome.
Do you charge for doing that kind of a workshop? Where I'm coming from is we put on an annual Earth Day event. And do you charge to do that kind of a workshop if we were to try to employ that as part of our Earth Day?
Well, two things. Yes, we charge. That's 100%, and we're worth every nickel. One, two, we don't really ingratiate ourselves in an Earth Day. What we do is so surgical and so specific, it's a standalone. This is about changing the trajectory of an entire community, and just setting up a booth with some tools for people to come and kick the tires on is something we just don't do anymore. Something we do what we feel is very meaningful and very surgical engagement.
Yeah, so Dan, when I think of you guys, I think that I look at you as being a paid for, honest broker. That is, you don't care who sells the product. You're not making money off the product. You're making money off the training. So the last thing you want to do is get people to use the wrong product and have it come back and bite you. Whereas if all you do is have the industry show their product, you're buyer beware. So I think, you know,
That's one.
Yep.
That's one. Yep.
So as a committee, I think we have to think
and-
about what we want to do
yeah.
next, but I think we got to figure out how to train these guys and get them motivated. Sorry, but go ahead. What's two?
All right, so I am jumping on my next Zoom in 5 minutes, but if there's any other questions, please let me take one or two more. Ken and I believe Anthony have our contact information, and yeah, we're doing a lot of projects up and around.
You're in San Jose
Northern
once every few
California.
weeks, is that right?
I'd say twice a month.
Okay. Might tie in with you for a coffee or something with some people.
Be happy to do it.
Okay. That go to your Zoom. But thanks, Dan. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us, Dan.
Thank you, everyone. Yep. Have a wonderful
you.
day.
That was great. Thanks.
So let me wrap up on that. As I said, I've never met Dan in person. I've talked to him on the phone 3-4 times. I found him through the industry group that said, here's who we use to train our industry. And I've talked to the I'm not sure what her title would be, but she is the sustainability person for South Pasadena, the town they showed you. And she was glowing about the fact that by training the people in South Pasadena with the honesty of what works, what doesn't work, don't buy this one, try this one, it is done very well. She has nothing but great things to say. Somebody else should do the same discussion with her to make sure she says that to the next person. Because it's always nice to triangulate, but she could not be more glowing about it. And one of the things that came out of it though was that, each town's different. We have 6 square miles, 2,500 homes. So we got like an acre and a half average per home, whereas South Pasadena has a quarter acre or something. So the tools that make sense in one location are not exactly the tools that make sense in the other location. And that's half the battle. So I think, as he said, I think Earth Day, the way we do it and training people are two different, they're apples and oranges. You shouldn't mix them. And I'm not sure what the next step is I was going to propose. So let me think about it. But one proposal I was going to make is whether or not we as a subcommittee, Amy, I haven't run this by you, I so apologize, might want to get together over coffee or lunch with the other big land use guys in our town, the Circus Club, Menlo College, Sacred Heart, and say, hey, we all got problems with our landscaping. We want to save money. We want to save the environment, both water and everything else. How can we work together before Atherton puts in any kind of codes or changes? We should all talk together and see what your issues are and what would you recommend? I'd like to get those guys involved in discussion. They may have already done a lot of homework and have another solution. So that would be kind of my next step if you guys thought it made sense.
Hey, can I ask some operational questions to Anthony and George?
George isn't in the room, but
Okay.
I'm happy to field them.
He's on the Zoom. At least his picture is. So
I am on the Zoom. Yes, thank you.
busted. So when is the leaf blower coming back in front of council?
So right now there's a city council subcommittee. That's Councilmember Hawkins Manuelian and Vice Mayor Whitmer. And I know that they've met a couple of times or once or twice on the issue. They're not exactly heading in the same direction with respect to where the ordinance should go. I created a draft ordinance for their review, and in that draft ordinance, it provides several options for the council. One is to ban leaf blowers, gas-powered leaf blowers in their entirety by a date certain. That could be January 1, 2023 or January 1, 2024. And they could also do the spare the air day exemption or exception, not exception or exemption, spare the air day prohibition on the use of any leaf blower, whether it's gas or electric. That's what's slated to go to the city council on October 19th as an introduction ordinance. However, this issue is with the city council at present. So the EPC has already provided their recommendation. And so now it's in the council's hands as a policy decision. And unless and until they direct that it either be returned to the Environmental Programs Committee or that it be, modified in some way, it's up to the council in terms of what's next.
So one of the functions of the subcommittee would be representing the EPC in the public comment when it is in front of the city council, right?
Yes, as long as the EPC directs a representative to do that.
Right. So we have to decide that in this meeting. And then one of the things Ken was talking about was trying to do outreach to our bigger, the Menlo Circus Club, the schools, stuff like that, to get their input on leaf blower or garden equipment ordinances. Has that already been done by the city, or is that something that?
It was done. It was done as part of the initial considered ordinance that the council looked at 2 years ago, I want to say. Their staff did a reach out to all of the public schools, talk to them about their grounds and facilities, and that is also where the initial recommendation was to allow gas-powered leaf blowers on commercial property and on institutional property, and to allow an exception during the rainy season from October 15th to March 15th. However, that did not pass muster when it got to the city council, and now they're just looking at a flat black or white ban, no ban.
George, while you're talking about that, am I wrong? Doesn't Brightview have the ability and use gasoline-powered leaf blowers?
What was that? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Doesn't Brightview on our property use gasoline-powered leaf blowers?
No, they are required to transition to electric.
But I hear the transition, but what's that transition when?
It was supposed to be done now. We pushed them in that direction now. I don't know whether that's actually occurred yet. I haven't talked to my public works director about it, but it is supposed to be electric.
Because in their bid, they said they couldn't use electric everywhere, as I remember, right?
That is what they said, but what they say versus what the law would require or what the council policy direction is would be different.
But maybe it's possible that maybe there shouldn't be a ban. Maybe there shouldn't be any ordinance. I'm a fan of saying.
That's a policy
educate
call for the council.
Well, let me be very clear. The council, I'm sorry, I think the council has responsibility to the residents, and the residents ought to be considered in this.
And there were numerous public meetings and public hearings.
Well, and you saw some of the response, didn't you?
I did, yes. And that from the council's perspective, it was a 50-50 response. So you're right. They need to be respectful of what their constituents say.
It was
but
from the council's response, from the council's perspective, it may have been a 50-50 response. It was a skewed response, and it's much greater than that, George, I will tell you. I cannot find a person who really says they want the town to write another ordinance.
No, I can appreciate that perspective, although the council is the policy board and they do set those ordinances.
I understand, but I got, as I said earlier, I may be wrong on this, but my view is the town council has two relationships with the residents. One is they serve them because their job is to serve the residents, and the other is they report to them. So they're caught in the middle, and and I think they need to spend more time understanding what the residents really want and how they feel. And I know that's a hard job.
Can you clarify your position? Are you saying that you do not want the city to do any ordinance to ban gas? Do you want to play out in the hands of the residents? Finish
Yes.
your
Yeah,
thought there.
I'll be very clear. The state of California has banned gasoline engines for sale starting 2024, correct?
Yes.
If you talk to the guys who run landscaping, if you actually go talk to the guys who do it, they will tell you that the life period, and this is, I haven't asked Dan this question, the life cycle of the gas blower is at most 3 years, and normally 1.5 years to 2. So by definition, the life of all this is very short. And I think we're creating a problem we don't need to create. Let's go solve the problem by getting people to do much more. If all we do is ban gasoline leaf blowers, A, we will wind up having no impact on the environment, and B, we will alienate so many people within the town, it isn't worth it. The last thing you want to do is alienate your customer and your boss. I think instead we could get massive impact changes by educating people and showing them it's actually better economically and environmentally. When we show that, and as I said in the last meeting, the real win here is what Dan showed on those electric mowers. If you can go to an electric mower, that's the real win, not leaf blowers. And the real win there is probably in a place like Atherton, robotic electric mowers, which are taking over Europe. So I'm saying, let's educate, let's not legislate. That's my view. And I got to tell you, if you go talk to the residents, that will be the overwhelming majority.
Based on that presentation, I also have a lot of concerns about who would be absorbing the costs associated with this ordinance if it were to go forward. I know I'm new to the committee, but I guess I just want to make sure that all stakeholders are somehow brought into this so that there is an undue responsibility placed onto some of the individuals who are the least able to carry the financial weight of these changes. So, you know, if there's any way to have ongoing education to make sure that homeowners who typically are not doing their own landscaping are aware of the steps that would be needed to take place. So that would be my recommendation.
Well, one of the things that we did propose was to wait to implement anything until the rebate programs are in place. Redwood City did a rebate program, but they didn't have as much uptake on it as they expected. They were very worried that, you know, everybody and his brother would come rushing in to get a new blower, but they didn't get as much uptake as they expected. But I have to say, I'm surprised about the position that you guys are taking as the environmental group, because usually environmental groups are going to be in favor of banning gas devices and pushing the hand of the public. So I'm surprised to hear that.
I wouldn't be surprised because, quite frankly, that's not the right answer. The right answer is all of the above. Use the right product in the right location. And when you talk about the rebate for buying it, that's not the cost. You saw the numbers. The cost is you can't blow the things off as fast. It's the labor cost. And so the problem, a real problem here is, with all due respect, I do not think the homework was done in the past, talking to the actual people that do the work and understanding what the impact would be to the user, sorry, to the industry, and then back to the homeowner.
Well,
And
they have implemented it in many cities across the state,
That doesn't
including
mean they're
Portola
right.
Valley.
Doesn't mean they're right, does it?
And we share a lot of our same gardeners from there. So for example, I'll just, on my personal level, our gardener is a Portola Valley guy. And he said that the way it's working for him, to answer what Amy was saying, is all of his people have a battery that they sit and plug on the outside plug of their house.
Yeah.
So when the guy comes to their house, the battery's sitting there for them to use.
And what happens to the prices he charged at Portola Valley?
I'm sorry,
What happened to the prices he charged at Portola Valley?
what happened to the prices?
Did he raise his prices?
I have no idea.
Exactly. That's the question.
Hey,
The other
guys.
thing I think that quite frankly, that the council and the committee has to understand is, just because people in Atherton have high asset value doesn't mean they have high cash flow. There are, of the 2,500 homes in Atherton, how many actually have excess cash, and you keep on raising their costs? It's going to be difficult. Taxes, inflation, you're putting a burden on your residents that may not be appropriate.
So I think we should, it's almost 2:40 and we still have a lot of agenda left to get through.
I've said my piece.
Uh,
sorry.
So I think maybe we continue this conversation and George and Anthony can give us an update on what the city council is going to do for if it is going to be an agenda item in October, because it doesn't sound like that's official. And if it is going to be an agenda item, maybe we could do call a special meeting for us to figure out what our committee public comment will be for that meeting, based on where we could review what the council is considering and come to a consensus about what our public comment will be for that council meeting. Does that work for everyone?
That's
That
excellent.
sounds,
Yep.
that sounds great.
Okay, cool. And that's allowed, right, George and Anthony?
Yes.
All right,
Okay.
cool.
I apologize. I'm gonna have to jump off. I'm gonna jump back on my phone. So I'm sorry for the disruption. It'll just take me a minute to go back onto the Zoom.
Okay. We'll try and go quickly so that we can finish on time. So the next item on the agenda is the Reach Code Subcommittee, which is me and Amy. And I'm so sorry, Amy, I keep not being able to meet with you, suggesting
That's
meetings and then
okay.
not confirming. So
We'll
I'm
get
gonna-
it, we'll get it scheduled.
we'll
Don't
get it
worry.
done. I think, George, is that supposed to be in the October meeting?
That is scheduled for introduction, first reading of an ordinance to adopt the REACH codes with limited exceptions on October 19th for first reading, and second reading would be November, so they'd be effective in January.
Are they referencing the new there's like the Bay Area standard Reach Code that Pacific Clean Energy or Peninsula Clean Energy and
So
all that
Peninsula
created?
Clean Energy actually assisted the building official in building the REACH codes, so yes. And the exemptions, that the limited exceptions that are within them now are subject to, council policy direction, but at this point, they have fireplaces and I think
Stoves.
cooktops as exceptions. And then ADUs are required to be, all new ADUs are required to be all electric. And the way the code reads now, as proposed, is that there are no new gas connections that would be allowed for items that are banned.
Okay, cool.
Hey, George, tomorrow night is that Reach Code presentation that they offered. Is that just offered to city council members? Because I can't do it. Maybe it's tonight. That's right, it's tonight.
Yeah,
Do we have anyone going to that can take notes on that?
I do not believe so.
'Cause I have that event tonight with the ADAP, so I can't go to it. It's really a bummer because they're presenting, the newest of new.
Right, and those are incorporated into the ordinance that's going to the council on the 19th.
Will they share with us a recording or something? Because it'd be nice I'm really bummed I have to miss that
Is
tonight.
it well, I guess if it's tonight, Amy and I both will be at that event too.
Yeah, yeah. But it might just be for council members. It went out to I don't know. Maybe for city officials. So I will circle back to the people that invited us and ask if they've done a recording. And then if the recording will be available for everybody.
Thank you very much. Folks, I want to apologize. I came in late today because I was confused. Well, first of all, I had a conflict, but I was confused about the water business. And I looked at that and I thought that was the meeting. I didn't realize we had a separate meeting from the water business.
They gave us a presentation on this, the status of our reservoir and some of the local programs that they're running to support.
Is that
water.
what's going on tonight?
We already had it in the beginning of this meeting.
Oh, okay. So it was part of this meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I misunderstood that because I tuned into it, but there was no sound, so I didn't know.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
that's okay. I think Anthony will put the recording of this on our YouTube channel, right? So if you want to watch it later
Good. With sound.
with sound, yeah.
That costs extra.
Good.
Perfect. Okay. So that's the REACH code. I think water conservation subcommittee is kind of Amy. Let's maybe do that when Amy rejoins. I'm going to go out of order. So the other subcommittee is the sustainability website. And some context, Ken, a former member of the committee and I rewrote our sustainability website. And one of the big parts of it was to aggregate all of the various incentive programs and rebates available to Atherton residents for buying an EV, water conservation programs, electrifying your home, all of that stuff. It's all consolidated in one place, but it hasn't, we did that about a year ago. And in the last year, the state and the federal government have done a lot of new programs. So it needs to get updated. So I was wondering if anyone on the committee wants to join me in this subcommittee to help find and just aggregate all of the rebates in one place so that we can update our website. I can do it by myself if not, but I'd welcome the help.
I can help you, Stacy. It's Amy. I can help.
Okay, perfect. And I'll send you the link so you can see what we have. It's literally just like a list of links with like a brief description so that, if someone's looking to conserve water, you know how to find all the different programs.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll send you the link to what we have, and then maybe we'll talk separately on how we want to divide and conquer and finding all those things.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. All right. So the other one, let's go back to the water conservation subcommittee. We just had our big water presentation. Do you guys have any updates or things that you want to talk about?
Amy, I haven't done anything since you and I talked. Have you?
No, unfortunately, I haven't. I apologize.
Yeah, but I sent you some contacts that were county and somebody else. I have to go back and get them. I thought the presentation today was very interesting on the water, but my step is always, okay, now what do I do? Tell me the action plan for me to do something. And what we're looking for is a water version of Dan to come in and say, I'm the honest broker, here's what you can do. Because when I know your experience has been, my experience in sales and with residents is, if you make it easy for them, they'll do it. You can give them a lot of references, but for them to put them together and do something, they just can't, they don't have the time, they don't have the energy, it doesn't get done. So the easier you make it, the better. So I'm trying to see if there's somebody who offers a kind of a Dan-like solution to gray water and water savings, because quite frankly, that may be our biggest problem coming forward. Somebody made the comment, we're the poster boy for using water.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to find a way to solve that problem.
Can I ask just a clarifying question? Are you looking for someone to come in and help residents understand how to better manage their water use, better conserve water, or something outside of that?
I'd like to find a way, whether it's a company that's a consulting firm or whether it's places that have done it, who can think about how do we move the needle? Not just how do we feel good, how do we move the needle on water? And moving the needle on water, in my view, I don't have all the details, that's why I want somebody, would be either massive reduction of the amount of watering of lawns.
Yes.
Well,
application of gray water. If you can do
Yes.
those two things, you'd have a massive change here.
We've received other presentations about the purple pipe. I've got the Laura Allen, she's going to come and do a presentation on gray water. And when we've had reps from Cal Water and obviously Bosca come, it seems to me that they often advocate the outreach and the education piece for the conservation measures or changing what you do with your landscaping to
But in the
incorporate
end-
drought resistant
at the end, in
plants.
Atherton, that only gets done by somebody you pay to do it for you.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to find those guys.
The architect, the landscape architect.
No, the guy who actually does the work, the guy who says, here's how I'm going to save you the water, and for this money, I'll do it.
So Ken, FYI, Cal
Yep.
Water has a program that will come and it's called their Smart Water Tune-Up program, where they will come and redo your entire landscaping to be
Who
more
will?
water efficient.
Who
Cal
does?
Water.
Cal Water.
Cal Water. I can send you the link. It's on our sustainability website on that rebate page. I just had them come yesterday and they're gonna redo my whole landscaping. It's amazing.
So
And
Cal
it-
Water, like Cal
Yeah.
Water does that?
Yeah.
Aren't they a state organization?
Yeah, so they have, that's part of their conservation funding program. They've realized that the cost to redo your landscaping, your irrigation system is so expensive that a lot of residents are unable to afford it. And so they do a free program when the state gives them funding for it, which they do since we're at what, like level 2 drought or something. So it's while they have the funds, but they'll do it. So
And
that's
they're-
one.
They're not
Really
they're not
valuable.
a state utility, Ken, they're not a state agency. They are an investor-owned utility like PG&E.
Okay, so like PG&E, okay.
Yeah, and they get a grant from the state.
So they're gonna make
And
money
they
on it, which is
use that
great.
money.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. But they won't do gray water. They'll do.
They don't do gray water, they
they'll
will
do
fix your
the
irrigation.
landscape. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So,
that's a great resource.
yeah,
Does anybody have an idea about the relative cost of drip, which apparently doesn't work very well on lawns,
it does not.
and gray water?
So gray water is different from, so gray water is when you're reusing the water that's coming
Yeah,
from
yeah.
the house. So it could go through a drip system. So because I'm full of knowledge from Cal Water coming yesterday teaching me about my irrigation system, they just have different nozzle heads for lawns that are more efficient and that they're not blasting water like on your street or your sidewalk, and it's a less dense of a water, so everything gets watered appropriately, but you're not getting puddles essentially. So they told me that based on my irrigation system, they think they're going to reduce my outdoor lawn usage by at least 50%. And it's a free program.
That's incredible, and it's free.
It's free. Yeah,
Well,
so
the-
we
the
did
consulting's
promote it
free.
at Earth Day, but I think maybe Anthony and George, you guys could include it again in your various towns.
So the consulting is free, but the layout and all the rest is not, obviously.
They
right?
do all the work for free. So they come out, so my first meeting, they came and reviewed my system. So we went through each zone and they counted all my hubs. And then they're gonna come back in about 10 weeks and do the work.
And they're gonna
Which
install it
part
all
do they
free?
do for free?
It's
They're gonna
all
install
free.
Everything for free with my tax dollars? I mean, how's this work?
It's free. They pay for it.
Everything.
Yeah,
Something strange here.
I'm
That is
giving them
strange.
no money.
So Cal Water is gonna come out to somebody living in Atherton.
Yeah.
And do
And
this
it's,
for
I mean, it's
free.
a program for all Cal Water customers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Something's, I wonder where they get the money.
Gotta
from.
highlight that on that.
Cal,
website.
Cal Water is not paid for by your taxes.
Well, but I bet you're paid for in your water rate.
That's correct.
So somebody else is paying for yeah, okay, gotcha, yeah.
Yeah.
And just to be clear on something, the town or this committee can engage for-profit professionals and make recommendations that residents use them.
Go over that again?
The town nor this committee, neither one of you can make a recommendation to a resident to hire a for-profit consultant or contractor.
But we can make a list of ones that have passed some test.
We don't have such a test, but we can make a list of contractors that have done work in Atherton or that are available to provide that sort of.
And we can create a test if we want.
The town could, yes.
But this is only for gray water.
It's for anything.
So the Cal Water program that I mentioned is for irrigation, and that's for any Cal Water customer.
Yes.
What the EPC could do for any of our environmental initiatives that would require hiring out, we could theoretically create some kind of a registry where we're not recommending, but providing a database
Resource. Yeah.
for people to find a contractor. Is that right, George and Anthony?
That is correct.
And you could have a gray water training session by some gray water expert. And anyone who wanted to go through that, who did it as a service, could go to that and you could say, we're not recommending them, but they went to the session. And they trained and they passed the test. We could do that, right?
We probably would, if we did a public education thing, we would have to find a nonprofit to help do the education and then
Why?
provide a resource,
Why do you need a nonprofit to do the education?
because we can't, as a government entity recommend a private business. And so if
No,
we're
no,
letting a
but-
private
but-
business or use our government
But you're
money.
not, you're just getting them, you're hiring them to do the education.
No, Ken, what we're doing is we're actually hiring, it would be, for example, we go out and we hired a consultant who does roofs to educate our community on how best to do their roof. By the
Right?
mere fact that the town is hiring them, having them at a public meeting, and we're paying them to be there, we are in essence encouraging our residents to use that particular
No, no,
contract.
no,
for
no,
that
I'm sorry, I'm not being clear. I'm not being clear.
Mhm.
I would use your analogy.
Yep.
I would hire an expert professor or even, I mean, would be nice. I would pay a paid consultant, maybe McKinsey, to come in and say, here is how you build a roof, which is safe, environmentally, blah, blah. And that course is attended by the roofers who are going to serve Atherton. There's an exam that they have to take. They went to the course, they learned how to do it, they passed the exam, and we could say as a town, we don't endorse any one of these, but we can say they passed the Atherton training on roofs.
So you're
We could
talking
do that,
about,
right?
you're talking about a certification program of some kind, a curriculum that the town develops that private sector companies have to take that course in order to become certified by the town to provide that service.
Not certified, that you can still hire anybody you want. You can't say, no, you can't hire Joe X because he didn't go to that course. But you can list the guys who went to that course and say, your choice, these guys went to the course. You
Possible,
could do that, right?
possible.
Yeah, that just takes,
And that's what a
you
lot
have
of
to get
places
the
do.
council's approval because that would take town
Sure.
staff time
Yeah.
and money to do such a thing.
It doesn't
Correct.
take town staff time a lot.
It does, sir. It does, sir. With all due respect, it will, because you can't hire them. The town has to hire them.
Oh,
And
no, I'm
I
not saying
hire
that,
them with council approval.
but we need to find a way to do it faster, cheaper.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, you're working in government here.
Well, that's the
There are
problem.
laws that prevent us from doing certain things.
Well, yeah, I understand, but I got you, George. I got you.
Does the installation of the system include a tank?
Gray water,
Or-
yes, yes. Gray water does.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
And that you got for free.
Well, so Cal Water they're fixing my irrigation, not installing a gray water
He's
system.
not doing gray water.
Yeah, they're separate things. And Bosca did say that they're looking at doing some kind of incentive
Hey,
program.
Stacy, to
for
be
gray water.
clear, I apologize. When they come on, they're changing your nozzles. They're not laying new piping underneath the ground, are they?
They're not allowed to upgrade my system in that they're not allowed to like put new pipes in areas of my lawn my backyard that doesn't have existing irrigation. They would be able to replace my pipes if I had outdated pipes that were leaking. So my pipes were all not
They didn't leak
leaking,
it. Yeah.
but they have, some of them of the top pipes were leaking. So they're going to replace all of that pipe work to make sure I'm
Gotcha. Okay.
reducing
Gotcha.
the water consumption. Yeah. So I put the link to the program if you guys want to sign up in the chat on Zoom.
Thanks. I'll do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's it on water conservation. I think the last topic for discussion is Earth Day.
We also had agendized, sorry, that came in loud, to talk a little bit about green infrastructure, but given the time, I
Yeah.
have some notes from Ovadia, but I'm happy to table that and wait until he can be at the meeting in November if you prefer.
Let's move it to November.
Okay.
And let's do the same for Earth Day. Because we're not going to start planning Earth Day between now and November.
That would
Certainly.
be so
I mean-
great because I'm so sorry. I do have to jump at the hour and I apologize. I should have allocated more time. But if we can pick up in November, or can we have like a interim meeting? Is that something
Yeah,
possible?
we can schedule special meetings if
Yeah,
you
we
guys
can
are
do a special
available.
meeting. I mean, I
That would
think,
be great.
yeah. So I think maybe we should plan on doing an October meeting because it sounds like we're going to have reach codes and leaf blowers in the October council meeting. Although that's in 2 weeks, so we're not going to meet before then.
It'll be on October 19th. Yes.
Okay. when are you guys gonna finalize that agenda? Is that gonna be like the week before?
Yes.
The agenda will go out on October 7th. I'm sorry, no, October 14th.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to hear back from the subcommittee before that. And once I hear back from the subcommittee on what that direction is, I can craft the ordinance. So once I have a draft report done, then I can send that off to the your subcommittee on the EPC.
Okay. Okay, so maybe let's plan on doing I don't know that we need a special meeting unless we want to do a leaf blower meeting in October, because I think Earth Day can be tabled until November, and same with the Public Works thing. So I think it's really once you guys have an ordinance, or if you've decided if there's an ordinance, maybe send it an email and we can decide if we can do a leaf blower specific subcommittee or leaf blower specific special meeting to figure out what our public comment would be.
Sure, when I know, I'll reach out to you.
Okay. Does that work for everyone?
Sure.
Okay. Great. Well, then I think I can close this meeting officially
Right at 3.
right at 3. We did it, guys.
Yeah, good
Good, so you
job.
will send the water business with sound, right? So we can listen to it, those of us who.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You'll
Thank you
send
very
the-
much.
The YouTube link. Perfect. Okay, great.
Thanks, everybody.